Your favorite tree in a forest or your backyard can live for over 100 years. A mature tree along your street today could have sprouted before there was TV, interstate highways, or overnight delivery. The world changes fast in ever faster ways. And with all that change comes challenges to protecting our natural resources. In particular, protecting our trees. In the last 50 years, with increased global trade, came an intensified environmental challenge. More and more insects and diseases came to our shores, hidden in the wood of pallets and crates, or within contaminated shipments of live plants. They emerged from their hiding places and spread. Without predators or natural resistance in their new habitat, they multiplied rapidly, killing our trees. As a nation, we're constantly updating our methods to close the doors on these damaging pests. But despite our best efforts to prevent their entry through increased inspections and the treatment of crates and pallets, a few uninvited insects and diseases still sneak into our country. With billions of dollars worth of plants, trees, and goods coming from all corners of the globe, it's a difficult battle. This is the story of three kinds of trees: the walnut, the avocado, and the ash. Three trees, each with their own unique pests and problems. For the Missouri walnut, the threat looms from a distance. For the avocado, the pest is on their doorstep. And for the ash, it's already a battle. More than these trees, it's the story of how the threats of these trees affect our everyday lives. And it's a story of different ways we can fight the problem of invasive pests, and how each of us can do our part to help.
Missouri has got about 42 million walnut trees. That is more than twice as many walnut trees as any other state.
Expert tree farmer Harlan Palm not only maintains his own property, he also works with new farmers to improve their walnut trees.
I've been working on several farms. They have a son or a daughter, and the farm will hopefully stay in the family. It will develop into a legacy. All these farmers know that walnut is the most valuable tree that can grow on their farm in Missouri.
One adjective to describe Harlan, well, if we're talking about walnuts, it's definitely going to be passionate.
He's very, very careful about teaching me each thing very, very in-depth. He's very, very good teacher.
The farms where I've been working with the landowner, they are developing ownership in terms of pride. Now what they're doing is they're increasing the potential value of their trees with getting that straight, good quality trunk on the tree.
Grafton Cook is the sales manager at Mopac Lumber, a walnut hardwood producer in central Missouri.
It's a family-owned business. We have perhaps 40 to 42 employees here. We're probably 90% of our production is all walnut. The lumber will go into architectural millwork, cabinetry, furniture manufacture for items such as flooring, plaques, and trophies and things of that sort. We bring walnut timber in from every county north of us, north of I-70 in the state of Missouri.
From a value standpoint, the trees on this farm, if they are allowed to grow to their maturity, the value could be somewhere around $400,000 to possibly $500,000.
I do know that the hardwood lumber business here in the state of Missouri contributes approximately $5.7 billion to the economy, and it employs close to 32,000 people.
Some other farms where I'm working on are way over a couple million dollars worth of walnut trees on the farm, and that is potentially going to be cut short if 1,000 Cankers comes in and takes out the walnut trees.
Bill Toomey is the Director of Forest Health Protection for the Nature Conservancy.
Black walnuts are being threatened by something called 1,000 canker disease. The disease complex is caused by a fungus carried by the walnut twig beetle. Literally thousands of beetles attack a tree and bore into the bark, and bringing the fungus into the tree thereby causing thousands of cankers that ultimately kill the tree.
To date, Thousand Cankers disease has never been found in either the natural forests or the managed tree farms of the eastern U.S. Scientists and tree farmers alike in states like Missouri are on the lookout for this threat and for potential solutions.
A lot has been learned to be able to suppress, contain, and maybe even locally eradicate the walnut twig beetle. The other main vector are humans. Humans are the ones that carry it long distances, and the next day or two, it's transmitted to another state.
Because the beetles are so tiny and the holes that they bore are so small, it's very difficult to detect this infestation in the early stages. Unfortunately, by the time you can see the signs visually, the tree is pretty far gone.
Harlan Palm is also president of the Walnut Council, a science-based organization that encourages research, discussion, and application of knowledge about growing hardwood trees.
Thousand Cankers disease is of great concern to the Walnut Council members, the landowners in particular, because they have been probably in my situation working towards raising walnut trees for 40 years. It's gotten to be part of our personal legacy within the family and so on, and now Thousand Cankers disease could wipe that out.
In certain parts of the country where black walnut is prevalent, a number of families and communities have built their livelihoods around this particular tree species, and all of that is potentially threatened by this disease.
Well, when I first heard about the Thousand Canker disease, it really just stopped me in my tracks, because it made me realize that we have something so small that could absolutely devastate our forest. It can have a financial impact, it can have a nature impact, it can have a family impact.
We're very concerned about it, not only because it is a disease of mortality for the tree's perspective, but it's going to have a direct bearing on our ability to source the raw materials in order to operate the sawmills. There's no question in my mind, if the walnut twig beetle were to infest walnut trees, that it would be absolutely devastating for our industry.
So far, the walnut twig beetle has yet to be discovered in Missouri.
We are looking intensely, but we have not seen any evidence of Thousand Cankers disease in Missouri.
The state has been very proactive. They put a quarantine on wood, walnut wood from other states with known infestations. Because the Thousand Canker disease is so difficult to diagnose, people can inadvertently move infected wood to uninfected areas. So it's our recommendation that people really try and keep the wood as local as possible. There are lots of things that the average person can do. If you're aware of a black walnut in your community and you notice that is starting to show signs of decline, call either your state forester, your Department of Agriculture. The sooner we can find this, the quicker we can respond, and the more options we're going to have to deal with this devastating disease. For more information, check out thousandcankers.com.
Unlike Missouri's walnut farms, for the avocado, the pest has just reached the edges of their region, as a disease named Laurel wilt has been spreading in the native red bay trees. Mauricio Mejia runs the family-owned Schnebly Redlands Winery and Fresh King Packing. Along with Alvaro Perpuli, they grow and pack avocados and manufacture a surprisingly tasty avocado wine.
Preserving the Florida avocado industry is crucial to my family's business, to our wine industry, to Schnebly Redlands Wine and Brewery. We are farmers. If it wasn't for the avocados, we wouldn't have the produce company that gave us and gave birth to this winery.
To talk about the avocado industry in Florida, it is the #2 fruit crop in the state of Florida.
Jonathan Crane is a tropical fruit specialist with the University of Florida.
It is a very important regional fruit crop. It's worth, I'd say, farm gate somewhere between $13 and $17 million a year, but it has an economic impact of about $54 million a year.
Kristen Mason is a biologist for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. She spent the last 8 months surveying the bay trees for laurel wilt infestation.
Laurel wilt is actually a fungus that's brought over by a beetle called the ambrosia beetle. This beetle comes from Asia.
The first signs of danger for the avocado industry were actually seen around 2003, and this disease was first found to be killing native trees.
It affects trees in Lauraceae family. So here on the refuge, we're seeing it affecting our bay trees, our swamp bay, and primarily the red bay trees. What it is fungal pathogen that's carried in this ambrosia beetle's mouthparts. Now this ambrosia beetle is tiny, it's smaller than a grain of rice. The beetle burrows into the trunk of the tree, creating tunnels called galleries. While it's burrowing in the tree, it inoculates the tree with this fungus. So it's not actually the beetle that kills the tree, it's the fungus that directly kills the tree. The red bay is an amazingly ecologically important tree throughout South Florida and the Southeast.
The native bay or Lauraceae trees in South Florida are like the canary in the coal mine for the laurel wilt infestation. As the number of infected bay trees grows, people like Jonathan Crane know the threat to avocados is getting closer.
Since we know that the red bay ambrosia beetle does attack avocado trees as well as the native Lauraceae trees, and we do know that avocado is susceptible to the disease laurel wilt. And so we know from the entomological research that this beetle prefers the native trees. And so if it has a choice between attacking a native tree and avocado, it will usually go to the native tree.
Unfortunately, ambrosia beetles have had help getting around the Southeast.
The beetle and the disease were introduced into the U.S. in 2002 in a port in Georgia. And subsequently from there, it has been spreading both naturally just by the beetle's movement, somewhere between 20 and 30 miles or so a year. The other way it's been spread is infested wood material, whether that's from trees that have been killed by the disease, that are then cut down and then transported and sold as firewood or used for barbecue smoke or things like that. The beetle is going through the natural areas, attacking the swamp bay trees, which is a preferred host, and taking out those native trees. And so eventually we know that the urban or landscape avocado trees will also be attacked. Over time, we would suspect that most of the swamp bay trees in the immediate vicinity of the avocado industry agricultural area will be hit or hit by the disease and killed by the disease. Our hope is that by implementing an early detection and suppression program, which means surveying for suspect avocado trees in the commercial orchards, detecting, sampling, and then taking action by removing those trees or parts of trees and disposing of the wood, will keep the beetle population and hence the disease suppressed.
Alvaro Perpuli, general manager of Fresh King Incorporated, is actively monitoring the avocado groves for the infestation.
The first discovery of the avocado trees with the disease was about, I'll say, a year ago, which is 2011. The last one, or the more recent one, was in May of 2012. It is in a commercial groves, and it is within, I'd say, 7 miles radius of our production zone. It is. We don't have any proof that it's spreading just yet.
The USDA is currently working on many different control methods. They're working on testing biocontrol agents. They're actually going to Asia looking for possible biocontrols. It's not just the USDA though. University of Florida has many research scientists that are working on similar projects.
But there is work in the entomology group. They're looking at repellents. They're looking at trap and kill systems. They're looking at insecticides. The plant pathologists are looking at different fungicides. There's been quite a bit of work by the pathologists done on looking at the difference between varieties and the resistance to the disease. And it does appear that there may be some differences
I do feel like there is hope in the community that we will develop something that will be able to help us out here. Maybe not completely get rid of the laurel wilt or the ambrosia beetle, but maybe somehow prevent it from completely wiping out all of our bay trees.
The laurel wilt education and outreach programs in the southeastern U.S. are significant. Many teams of people are working on educating both industry and citizens to help stop the spread of this deadly disease.
We do field demonstrations with the growers on how to properly scout and sample, any new treatments that may be forthcoming.
Everybody in the industry is somehow involved to resolve or try to find out something to stop this disease. Myself, I'm part of the avocado committee here, and we go to the meetings with the University of Florida to find out what is the latest in advances and what can we all do to stop it from spread.
Save the Guac was a website to really try to raise the awareness of people who love guacamole and love avocados, but really don't know the dangers of moving infested wood materials into an agricultural area.
There are a few different things that people can do to help prevent the spread of laurel wilt. Primary one being don't move firewood. If you're going to go camping somewhere, if you're going to build a bonfire or do any cooking, buy firewood at the location that you're traveling to. Another preventative measure is to burn your brush piles in place if you're allowed to burn where you live. Or just let it decompose right there on site.
If the avocado industry is devastated by pests and we can't recover, not only will it hurt my business, what it'll do is make it so that our business can't represent this community. So you lose the winery, you lose the brewery, you lose that sense of pride in the community, you lose all the employees, which is obvious. Now you lose tourists that came here specifically to do wine tours. You lose the people that came here specifically to try different tropical fruit wines.
And so I'm very hopeful. I think we are going to learn how to manage this. It's going to take some time, but I think we're going to do it.
Along the Chesapeake Bay lies Baltimore, Maryland, famous for its crabs, row houses, and its stoops. Baltimore's celebrated culture of street life would be nothing if it weren't for its striking number of trees. And another thing striking about Maryland, it is now in the midst of battling an invasive pest, the emerald ash borer.
Baltimore's kind of a small town. Everybody kind of knows everybody else, and everybody's so kind. It's a small city, but it really feels small, like a small town. Like home. It's home. You come into a neighborhood where there are trees and people are out. You see the dogs, you see people playing, you see people sitting under the trees. And, it's just a good thing. It's much better. Street trees are really important for a lot of reasons. I mean, you want to make sure that you have shade. It keeps the heat down, but it also protects you from the noise.
Forest products from Maryland trees are a $4.7 billion industry. But Maryland's ash and other trees do more than just provide wood for manufacture.
Ash trees are very hardy as a tree. They survive well in urban environments. They're great for birds nesting. They provide shade.
In Maryland, green ash is one of the two species that we have most prevalently in our state, quite often in streamside settings. So when rain falls and the water crosses all kinds of different kinds of land uses, whether it's farming, pavement in cities and street, and as it moves towards the stream or the creek, hopefully it goes through a streamside forest of some kind, and the forest is there to filter any sediments, and the water that ends up in the creek that eventually ends up in the Chesapeake Bay is cleaner for having gone through that filtering or buffering process. We refer to it as the last line of defense and as far as water quality goes.
But Baltimore's shady tree life is threatened by yet another invasive pest.
Well, the emerald ash borer first showed up in Maryland in 2003 on some infested nursery stock. Was detected by the Department of Agriculture during some inspections they were doing on plant stock. And we tried to retrieve all the material that had been sold but we were not able to, and unfortunately the bug came out of the nursery stock eventually, and then we had a problem on the landscape.
The emerald ash borer in Maryland was discovered, fortunately, the way it should have been, at a nursery by one of the Maryland Department of Agriculture inspectors. That started the program.
The first thing we did was try to monitor the area and try to see if we could pick up other insects that were in the area. And unfortunately, this part of southern Maryland has quite a preponderance of green ash, and then we realized that we had our work ahead of us, because what we were planning on doing at the time was a take the tree out effort to remove the insect along with the tree that was infected, dispose of the tree in a proper way, and then hope that we had stopped the spread of EAB in that way. We have 14 counties that are now part of our emerald ash borer quarantine, where we're hoping that that physical barrier of the Chesapeake Bay will keep the insect from moving over to the eastern shore.
The damage from the emerald ash borer may change the face of Baltimore. Valerie Shane from Parks and People.
Baltimore has a lot of green spaces in comparison to other cities. I think our city thrives on the diversity of trees that we have here. So you take out one type of tree and it's absolutely going to devastate our ecosystem.
Based on the recent survey work, we've estimated that Baltimore City and the surrounding area has about 6.5 million ash trees in that urban environment. And so, you know, the ecological benefits that those trees provide and the cost of removing those trees is about a $225 million impact. When an insect first shows up, the hope is that you can eradicate it and get rid of your problem, and in many cases we're successful with that tactic. When that tactic fails, we then have to learn to live with this critter in the environment, and the best I think we could do at that point is to slow the spread, try to control it, remove trees where we can, monitor how quickly it's moving, and then work with other types of methods of controlling this insect. Biocontrols are what we're currently checking on now. We have a research center in Cheltenham in southern Maryland where we're doing our own research.
This is the headquarters. This is where we work to hopefully control the emerald ash borer. We have a number of things going on here. We're trying to find other bugs that will eat the emerald ash borer, or at least the eggs and the larvae of the emerald ash borer. There's 3 different species we're working with, and we're hoping that those two slow the spread of the emerald ash borer.
And we're hoping the state of the science and what we understand how to control this insect will improve as time goes on. So the idea is we're trying to buy ourselves some time. If we slow the spread, hopefully the science can catch up with it. Hopefully the biocontrols can become established, and we could have other insects like parasitic wasps helping us get the job done of controlling the outbreak.
Both Maryland's officials and activists are spreading the word to educate people about the threat.
Coming out and helping us maintain these trees and plant the new ones. We really do appreciate it, and all the work that Parks and People does around the city couldn't be done without the work of our generous volunteers. It's a little small green beetle, very shiny, but the way that we can prevent it devastating our trees here is to remember not to move around firewood.
Buy it where you use it, and know the source if you're buying it at home. Know where you're getting it from.
Our #1 best pest detection system that we have in Maryland are the citizens of Maryland. So if you see an insect that you've never seen before, it has a metallic green color, it came out of a hole that looks like a D-shaped little hole in the side of the tree starts to seem like it's not very healthy, you need to call some aspect of Maryland state government, either the Department of Natural Resources or the Department of Agriculture, so we can come out and confirm the suspicions that we have emerald ash borer.
The fight in Maryland against the emerald ash borer is in a new phase. Monitoring, biocontrols, but most importantly, people are the lines of defense the state has drawn. In Baltimore's battle against the bug, they're using every tool in the shed to keep the beetle from spreading. And they're looking into the future to see what scientists may be able to do to stop it someday. 3 kinds of trees: walnut, avocado, and ash. 3 pests, and 3 places people are working to limit the damage to trees and to people's livelihoods. These are 3 stories, but there are challenges all around the country. Sudden oak death, threatening the oak woodlands of California. Asian longhorned beetle, which threatens hardwoods like maples in the Northeast and the Midwest, and many other pests across the nation. Inspecting incoming cargo, tree surveys in our communities, and quick actions after a new pest is spotted. These are all ways the government's working to prevent the arrival, establishment, and spread of forest pests. But citizens have the greatest power to protect trees in their community. Keep an eye out for bugs you don't recognize. Only buy firewood where you will burn it. And always dispose of brush and other yard waste properly. Don't move firewood. Support efforts to control and eradicate pests in your area. Our world won't slow down, but with your help, our treasured trees and forests will thrive long into the future.